Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the South Atlantic Media Services TV News. Making the headlines this week. A councillor is arrested on accusations of growing cannabis and leaking government secrets. We talked to Connect CEO Barry Hubbard about the recent power outages. Charlie Henry speaks about his experience of the Darkdale. And Steve Kirk tells us about efforts to make James's Bay safer. Damien O'Bey will also bring you all the highlights of this week's football from Francis Plain. Councillor Les Baldwin was arrested on Monday for leaking government secrets. In a raid on his house, police discovered 10 buckets in which cannabis plants were growing. Baldwin told SAMS, "I am a known cannabis smoker and have previous conviction for it." He said he grew the drugs because of the recent increase in price. Baldwin said he has been using the drug for 40 years and that the plants growing in his house were totally for personal use. He claims it acts as a stress reliever in the end of an evening and that it does not affect his performance at work. The councillor was originally arrested in connection with leaking information about shipping contract negotiations. This is something which SHG sources have said might damage the island's position. Mr. Baldwin denies these accusations, claiming that he is baffled that the investigation has led to him. It was while searching his house for evidence of the leak that police found the drugs. He was then arrested for a second time on separate charges. Mr. Baldwin has now been released on bail and will presumably be taken to court in due course. However, we have not been able to get any official comment from the police. Last week, households across the island experienced a number of short power outages, which frustrated people who were worried that the outages may damage their electrical appliances. We spoke to Connect CEO Barry Hubbard about the problems.
We normally, as we enter the windy season, that's the time when the network starts getting sort of stressed. These last couple of days there's been three. There's been one outage or one fault has been up near Prince's Lodge, which was an earth line, which had sort of slipped through its clamps, and it was very high, and the other wires have been able to come into contact with it when the wind blows. So although the power went on and off a few times, it was all just down to that one fault, and that's been rectified. We found out this morning that's been rectified. There's another two at Longwood. One at the back of Longwood Road was like a tree has come onto the lines, and another one which are currently just trying to identify, which is going Longwood from sort of Pub Paradise down to Napoleon's house. So it's in that area, which are just trying to work out what it is, and we can rectify that now. Yeah, it's all down to maintenance again. The areas that we've spent a lot of time maintaining are currently not being affected. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years out in sort of the western areas, which were prone to frequent outages. So those areas are actually holding up quite well. We identified priority areas and we maintained those. One of the priority areas we'd actually identified in terms of trees. Was the area along the back of Longwood Road, and we've already started work there. We're pushing the boundaries back. So I think we had a 3 metre clearance on lines. We're now moving that to 5 metres with the agreement of landowners. So we've already started in that area, and it's just a bit of a shame that this particular tree's come down before we got to it. But at least it shows that we are sort of looking in the right areas anyhow.
Mr. Hubbard went on to say that this is a matter of maintenance. He hopes that the work Connect have done, and are continuing to do, will prevent any future outages. In a statement last Friday, the company announced that they had identified a damaged high-voltage cable as the reason consumers in Blackfield had been without electricity. They found a generator to power the area while working to fix the problem. Over 70 years since it was sunk off the coast of St Helena, work is starting to remove oil from the Darkdale. In 1941, Charles Henry was on a fishing boat which was moored alongside the ship. We spoke to him earlier this week.
No, that's just by I was going alongside it and asked him if I could do a bit of fishing. Well, me, my uncle, and another bloke. Okay. So he said, yes, you can tie up and have a bit of fishing. But before we went, he asked if I would like to have some tea. So I thought that man was very nice. I said yes, because tea was very handy for us. We only boiled tea in an old tin at that time, you know, and fire grate, but wood burning on this. So he brought us tea, and the joke, he said, the tea is green, but a man was green would make it. And we went down to the stern part of the ship to tie up. And during the time we was tying up there, we caught one tuna fish. It was about 40 pounds. And of course they was looking over the stern and they asked if they could buy it. So I was telling them, yes, we sell it too. I didn't even hear it blown up or anything. Only my uncle was fishing with us. He waked me up. And when he woke me up, I was facing that way to the hill from my bed window. And I could see the flame like fire. Because he waked me up and said, the Darkdale on fire. And when I got up and went down by the arch, you'd be surprised the amount of people what was down there. So they already was heard it. Some say it was 2 explosions, some say, I don't know, go on, or they heard one, I heard none. Too sleep, too sound. Fire right round the ship. That's what I see. Then the next morning, its bow was up, and some drums of oil was coming out, big drums. And we see like boats was picking it up, floating. So we went along and picked it up and we only could bring 8 drums in not in the boat, we towed it. Tie them up, tow them, but it was hard going, pulling and that. We didn't get there till, well, it must take about 4 hours to get it put under the crane. But more boats besides was picking it up too. And they did say, the crew, just we didn't much know the crew, but we did know the man was the chief steward, was taking the fish from us. And one man but offers the tea, his only name around here is John Beeks. He is one out of 41 but going down there. And he was named John Beeks, yes.
The Pacific Dolphin, which forms part of the Darkdale project, arrived in James's Bay on Thursday morning. She will be joined by another ship next week. The area around the Darkdale will actually be exempt from a series of regulations about to be imposed in James's Bay. The new rules will cover the use of personal watercraft and establish so-called no-wake zones where vessels aren't allowed to go any faster than 5 miles per hour. Deputy Harbour Master Steve Kirk, who is part of the team which will monitor these regulations, told us more.
So we're just working towards a safer environment within Jamestown Harbour and surrounding waters. Yeah, but we obviously have to be mindful of the fact that we don't want thousands of orange buoys in James Harbour, because I think that will make it more confusing for all those using the personal watercraft. Well, obviously within the map that's obviously been produced, we have obviously 2 no-wake areas. One obviously going from the pier head out to Needle's Eye, across to the head buoy, basically almost across to where the extractor is, just beyond the extractor and the Seahorse, Anthony Thomas's boat. Obviously back in again and along the line basically of the Papa Nui, basically 2 middle steps. So it incorporates obviously quite a big area. The other area, no wake zone, will be obviously on SHG moorings, which is obviously understandable when we've got the moorings full of yachts. We've marked obviously the pipeline that comes from the sand barge across to West Rocks there. We're obviously proposing as well from middle steps a swimming sort of come diving lane, so obviously allowing people to go out to the Papa Nui. The proposed obviously swimming area, again, That should be roughly, I think, 25 metres from the shoreline. We will then have a buffer zone of about approximately 30 metres beyond that, which will come to basically the 50-55 metres. Obviously not allowing jet skis or any other personal watercraft to come within 50 metres of the shoreline. If anybody does want to go to the Papa Nui, then obviously that's why we're proposing this area from Middle Steps. It's not law, that's why obviously it went out in the local news, because we're still sort of gathering comments from members of the public. We still wanted some more feedback on that. So I think once the period of time is up, which I believe is this Friday, 3rd of July, then if there's no further comments on it and everyone's happy, then obviously we'll go through the correct procedures for that.
Here now is Damien Obey with the sports news.
Despite the rain falling heavily over the weekend, all football fixtures went ahead at Francis Plain. In Saturday's first match, Fuji's and Chop Shop Boys clashed in a hard-fought battle. The first half finished goalless, despite both teams creating an array of goal-scoring opportunities. Chop Shop Boys took the lead through Kevin Hudson, just after half-time. Hudson latched on to a timely pass that sailed over the top of the Fuji's defense, creating confusion amongst defense and goalkeeper. The confusion afforded Hudson with a tap-in for the first goal. However, Fuji's fought their way back into the match. Selwyn Stroud slammed home a right-footed half volley, and Fuji's took the lead for the first time in the match just minutes after equalizing. Stroud was at the thick of it once again. His mazy run on the left wing resulted in the youngster being chopped down by Eugene Williams in the penalty area. Deanne Phillips duly converted the penalty kick. Chop Shop Boys earned a share of the points in the last 5 minutes of the match when their captain Alonso Henry nutted home at the far post. The second match on Saturday saw Hearts pull off a convincing 7-0 victory over Crystal Rangers. Hearts dominated proceedings from the get-go and were often wasteful in front of goal. Shane Stroud opened the scoring and went on to net a brace before being substituted at half-time. Jason George added a hat-trick, taking his season total to 7, whilst Chris Owen and Clayton Bootsy Thomas added a goal each. Sunday's fixtures saw Rovers go up against Raiders in the 11:45 a.m. fixture. Raiders recruited a few new players following their recent run of poor form. Their first half performance was much improved compared to recent matches, and the match was nicely poised, with Raiders trailing by a single goal when the half-time whistle blew. However, in the second half, Rovers began to find the net with relative ease and became eventual 4-0 winners. Goal scorers for Rovers were Andrew Young, Clayton and Rico Benjamin, and Ronan Legg. In the second match on Sunday, Bellboys went head-to-head with new team Wolves. Once again, defending proved to be Wolves' weakness, and they leaked goals at regular intervals. Although their goal was under constant threat, Wolves' Jacob Duncan netted a consolation goal. Goals for Bellboys came from a Tyler Brady brace, and single goals from Scott Crowey, Shane Benjamin, and Tristan Hudson. Final score, Bellboys 5, Wolves 1. The final match on Sunday was contested by Wirebirds and Axis. The Birds produced another 5-goal haul, whilst Axis could only manage 1. Joseph Ace Halangwani confirmed his spot on the top of the hot shots chart with another brace. Simon Scipio and Rick Joshua added a goal each, with the 5th coming by way of an Axis own goal. Dane Wade notched up a consolation goal for Axis. That's the sports news for this week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Damon. Well, that's all from us, but before we leave you, we have a message from our CEO, Richard Wallace.
Good evening. Here at SAMS, we try to innovate and push the boundaries of news delivery for the Island of St Helena. We have a successful newspaper and 2 radio channels that receive huge support throughout the community. 3 months ago, SAMS, in association with Vision Media, again strived to break new ground by delivering a TV news service for the island, something that we thought was necessary as the island develops and enters into a new and modern world. The focus for our news broadcasts has been on topics that resonate loudest through the Saint community. We have covered various subjects that have highlighted the richness of the island's community, and we have documented the changes that are happening, as well as explained visually what the future may look like. When SAMS and Vision Media embarked on this ambitious project, we made no secret that this was a trial period that would last for 3 months. We are now coming to the end of episode 12, our last episode in this trial period. The success of the TV news has been difficult for us to gauge, as there is no way for us to quantify the viewing figures and determine the value that the island places on the TV news. This was always going to be a difficulty when SAMS breaks new ground and enters into a new visual medium. That being said, we still believe that the island deserves a TV news service going into the future. The trial period has ended, and the issues that we have faced have been many, and some difficult to overcome. The purpose of the trial period was for us to investigate the issues that we could face if we were to bring the TV news service online on a more permanent basis. SAMS and Vision Media have learned much about TV news broadcasting, even in such a short period of time. The concept of a local TV news broadcast for the island is valid, and although the service will be discontinued after this week's broadcast, it is very much our hope that we will be able to return the service to the island on a more permanent basis. For this to happen, we have some hurdles that have to be jumped and some mountains that have to be climbed, but I'll be working towards those goals. Personally, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the whole SAMS family for their efforts in bringing you the local TV news. They did not shy away from the challenge when asked to put themselves on the line, or even as it were on TV. It takes an incredible amount of courage to step up and put yourself and your personality on display for all to critique. For that, I am very proud of all here at SAMS. I can't forget to mention our partner, Richard Moores of Vision Media, who's been very patient with us and has worked hard to put our best sides forward. His work has been very much appreciated. Now, in closing, I'd like to reiterate that we have enjoyed bringing you the SAMS local TV news. And although we are finishing our trial period, I hope that with help from SAMS, Vision Media and other partners, we'll be able to return this service to the island soon. Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this week's news. I'm August Graham from everyone here at SAMS. Thank you all for watching and good night.